2, and we are live.
Hello, everyone. This is a public meeting of the Indiana Arts Commission APS Grants Program, panel number 2. I am Ryan Shelton, pronouns he, him. I am the Regional Arts Partner for Region 7 and the Partnership Manager for Nickel Plate Arts in Noblesville. Today is May 5th, and we are meeting online and streaming live for applicants and the public to observe. There is no contact between the panel and the audience about the disposition of applicants before, during, or after the panel meeting. This meeting will be recorded and made available upon request. At this time, I will individually invite each of the panelists and staff to introduce themselves, stating their name, occupation, and where they are from in the state. Let's start with the panel. Pat?
Oh, hi. I am Pat Grable. I am a retired high school English teacher and a watercolor artist. And I'm speaking to you on a sunny day in Fishers.
Rick?
Rick Wilkerson from Indiana Entertainment Foundation. I'm the executive director and we focus on Indiana music history.
And Rick, where are you streaming from today?
Indianapolis.
Thank you. Laura?
I am Laura Villani, the president of the Fishers Arts Council, and I am streaming from Fishers, Indiana.
Deanna?
Hello, I'm Deanna Polsma. I am an individual artist and small business owner of Glazed and Confused Creations. I'm calling in from Lawrence, Indiana, and former arts administrator.
Lauren?
Hi, my name is Lauren Curry. I'm the director of Indy Movement Arts in Indianapolis.
Louise?
My name is Louise Blazuki. I own Kiln Creations in Noblesville, and I'm streaming in from Anderson.
Well, now we'll go to the IAC staff. Eric?
Hi, everyone. Eric. I am the Grants and Research Manager for the Indiana Arts Commission. I'm doing all the tech things today.
And Paige?
Hi, everybody. I'm Paige Sharp, Deputy Director of Programs for the Indiana Arts Commission, and here just to oversee the process and provide any policy clarification if needed.
Now we'll begin the panel review. This is how the process will work. I will announce the application we will review and ask the first reader to begin the discussion. The first reader will provide their assessment of the application based on the evaluation criteria and their perspective. Panelists, please note the applications do not need to be recapped since everyone has read it. Just provide your comments. After the first reader is finished, I will ask the second reader to present any new, additional, or opposing comments. We are not looking for consensus, just a full evaluation from the different perspective panelists bring to the table. After the second reader is finished, I will open the discussion for final comments. Remember, in the interest of time, we are only looking for new, additional, or opposing viewpoints. If a panelist has a conflict of interest, that panelist will be placed on hold while the application is reviewed. Finally, once the application has been reviewed by the full panel, this panel will update their scores in the online system. It is common for scores to change as a result of this broader discussion. These scores save automatically. Panelists, do we have any last minute questions before we get started?
Is Hendricks live disappeared or am I missing something?
Oh, just on the sheet.
It's not on the application list. That's why.
I think it's just missing. We'll start there. Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to be sure.
Good question. In fact, that's actually our first one. Let's begin. We'll start with the application from Hendricks Live Incorporated. I don't think we have any panels with conflicts. The first reader is Patricia. When you're ready, Pat.
Call me Pat. Yep. I know that Hendricks Live is one of the grant applications because I read it. My comments. A great deal of artistic quality, I think, in this application. A talented artist involved in a public art display. I liked very much the fact that with the display will go QR codes where people can research the art as well as appreciate looking at it. I was a bit concerned that only one person benefits financially from this grant and that the marketing materials are more about the new art center in Hendricks County than about the artist herself. would have liked to have seen more about the art and the artist, although I did search for this artist and take a look at the work that she does. And she is really quite good. And the timeline only mentions one painting and the grant mentions 4. And I was a little puzzled by that. That's it.
Thank you, Pat. Second reader is Laura.
I felt the project was well explained. It does directly benefit an Indiana artist. And I gotta tell you, my vision's bad. I would like to see Hendricks Live bring in an underserved population for tours or open houses featuring the painting to be have a more proactive component for that. I do think uniting of several communities through art is a creative approach to community pride. And I thought it was a strongly supported project.
Laura, any new additional or opposing panelist comments?
Hey, Ryan, I've got a few things I wanted to bring up. Under the artistic quality, I had noted that the response could have been strengthened by providing a little more information about how input and feedback was gathered about what stories are going to be depicted in the paintings and how they're why they're important to the community. And then specifically under community engagement, the applicant had talked about the community input was solicited by local residents from the artist, but it didn't talk about how it was gathered, and including that information could have really strengthened it, because it could just be she talked to 1 to 2 residents that are friends, or was it a meeting of residents in the different zip codes? Was there an open process for people of the community to kind of submit their ideas of what was important to them about their community? So just including that additional information about what they feel their story of their community is and why it's important to them and how it was gathered could have really strengthened that section of the application.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Rick.
I thought, just to amplify or on something Pat said, with just one artist benefiting, it would seem to me the application would have been stronger. The way I remembered it was 5 paintings. I'm not completely sure, but
Yeah,
I would have, but I would have loved it if it was maybe 5 artists. I would have liked it better if it was 5 artists.
and
Or
it
have
did,
one
it
per
didn't,
painting, however that is.
it did mention 5 paintings, but at the end, on the timeline, it's only painting number 5 that's going to be installed. That's what bothered me. But you're right. Yeah, they should. 5 painting, even more than 5 paintings were mentioned, actually.
So a clarification between who's painting and how many paintings would have helped. All right, excellent. All right, if you guys would finalize your scores and update any comments as you wish. If you kind of just look up at me, I don't want to take too much of your time, but if you need me at any time, just give me a stop or a whoa and all. There. All right. We're all good? Excellent. The next application is from the Indiana Fashion Foundation Corporation. I do not believe we have any conflicts of interest with that one. The first reader is Rick, when you're ready.
Okay, I felt this was a pretty strong application. The organization has a few years of track record, and I felt their support materials provided good, strong evidence that they were in fact doing the work that they plan to do, that they've done it in the past. I felt that the focus on kids and entrepreneurship and fashion was very well thought out, and just a really good way of reaching kids. It's not something that's going to reach a lot of people, but if every kid that benefits from this, I think will benefit greatly, because you get not only artistic, but you get to think about our entrepreneurship and business and things like that. So I felt that overall the application was very solid.
Thank you, Rick. The second reader is Deanna.
Yes, so I would have to agree. A couple additional notes that I had, so related to artistic quality, I wrote the response could be further strengthened by including information about the artist being hired and their related qualifications. Then, let's see. Community engagement idea was all great. Project management. I wrote the specifically in the project management roles or responsibilities could have been strengthened by including their specific roles, responsibilities, and relevant project experience.
Thank you, Deanna. Any new additional or opposing panelist comments, Pat?
I have a comment. I agree with everything everybody said so far. There was only one thing that really kind of was a concern. I would have liked to have seen more information about the student applicants. And I had some concerns about the timeline because the timeline says the program is going to be between 1 to 3 days. One could be 1 day or 2 days or 3 days. And I thought that was really, really vague and would be really hard to plan. I would prefer to have seen it. This will be a 1 day program or this will be a 3 day program. So that I found. But other than that, I thought good experience, and they were very much aware of their target audience. And yeah, it was good.
Luis?
I wanted to just go back to something that I thought was really strong in this application was that they showed a growth. They talked about input that they had received in previous programs and changes that they'd made to the program by opening that up to more students for that smaller project that they mentioned. I thought that was a really strong showing of the fact that they listened to their constituents. And then I wanted to point out the last person who just spoke said that there was they didn't know who the students were, but they do outline that they open it to all students in Indiana, and they typically have most of the kids are from IPS, but they've had kids from Brownsburg, Carmel, Evanston, Greencastle, and Greenwood. So they did include that information. It was just quite a long application. And I think the other thing that lends strength to this application is the dual purpose, that it's econ development and artistic input.
I didn't say they didn't know who the students were. I just said I thought that more information about the students would have been good, helpful.
Do you mean what kind or where they come
as a
from?
teacher, I would like to have known that.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? All right. Finalize your scores, please. Let me know if you need more time. Next application is from the Indiana Historical Society. We'll put Rick into the waiting room, please. Thank you. First reader is Laura. When you're ready, please.
Okay, I felt that this project is well conceived. It's a well-conceived idea and purposeful. Although it does not financially benefit an Indiana artist, I see its value as inspiration to many Indiana artists. The fact that the local Latino and Hispanic organizations chose this commission, and the Indiana Historical Society is a developing programming and has a plan for measuring its audience impact, feels relevant and important. And I have no doubt this project will be done well and will be an inspiration to all that visit.
Laura, did you have anything on project management?
Oh, good grief. What happened to my thing? Hold on. Sorry. Oh, that project management is where I had no doubt that the project will be well done.
Perfect. So I want to make sure.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Laura. Lauren, you're the second reader. When you're ready, please.
Thank you. I think the only thing I have to add was in the IDEA section. I wonder if it would have been more compelling to hear about other costs associated with the festival, Will there be local artisans and vendors? I would have liked to hear more about whatever local elements you, meaning the applicant, will engage. I would also have liked the names and associations of the planning committee, which I guess is more about project management, but yeah.
More specifics on who's putting it together. Or running it.
Yes. On partnerships and also who's putting it together, yes.
Thank you, Lauren. Are there any new additional opposing panelist comments? Deanna?
Yeah, so I wanted to echo all the same things that Lauren just said, and then also add in under the artistic quality that since it's a first year, there's not past experience to inform the decision making, but kind of providing some background information about how the project came to be, where what communications were had with the Latino community, things of that nature. Providing that information could help bolster the response as to what brought the project into being.
I also want to add something positive here. I researched this artist that they're bringing in, and he is highly regarded and highly awarded, and I thought really beautiful, beautiful work about his culture and his background. That's all.
Thank you. All right, finalize your scores, please. Excellent. All right. Anybody need more time? We're good. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Deanna, just tell me when. No hurry. Thank you. Anytime, please. Don't hesitate. The next application is anything else, Arts Choral. I don't think we have any conflicts. Deanna, you're the first reader when you're ready.
Oops, sorry about that. Okay, so under artistic quality, I wrote there's a clear project goal which utilizes past feedback to inform programming and providing a meaningful impact artistic experience. Artist support, it's clearly going to financially benefit Indiana artists. Under community engagement idea, we've got, there's a clearly defined community, the applicants working with the community to gather their input and involve them in programmatic decision-making, has set strategies to increase access, address barriers, and clearly define tools to measure the program's impact and success. Since the marketing materials didn't reflect individuals, it's kind of hard to say that their marketing materials reflect those they wish to serve. So that's an area that could be strengthened slightly. Under project management, staffing, timeline, and budget all seemed detailed and appropriate.
Thank you, Deanna. Second leader is Luis.
I thought this was a really strong application in terms of the, hold on, let me use the actual verbiage, the artistic quality. I love that it benefits Indiana artists. My only question was as to the budget. In the beginning of it, they mention a number $7,400. And then when I read through the budget, I didn't see that amount anywhere. So I'm not sure exactly what stipends they're paying or how. So it was just a confusion that would have made it stronger had it been more outlined in exact numbers so that we could understand exactly what money was going where. But otherwise, the community engagement was also really strong here. They have a plan for surveying and they have a plan for reaching out to people who have gone to their previous events. So I thought that was really well thought out.
Thank you, Luis. Any new additional or opposing panelist comments? Laura?
Is this, I want to make sure we're with the right, I'm looking at the right application. Is this the Indianapolis Arts Chorale?
Correct.
Chorale.
Chorale,
Oh, yeah.
thank
Yes,
you.
that's my fault.
Okay, I may have read this project wrong. I felt like I needed more clarification on the project. It would help to know how many performances, how ideally it would be planned. Is there one location or a variety of places? I was unclear on who the 5 artists being paid were. I could see the 2 artists that were identified as the artistic director and the accompanist. So I was a little unclear on that. The passion for supporting mental health awareness is clear and sincere. I would like to have some community partners identified and cite the role they would play. There's appropriate intent for inclusion and accessibility, but project is early in development and it was hard for me to score that. It sounds like a small but mighty board and they seemed committed.
I just wanted to provide, because it's come up twice now, so I wanted to provide some clarification when they talk about who they're compensating about the director and the accompanists, but down in the budget, they specifically line item artistic director, accompanist, concert rehearsal conductor, and musicians that all total that amount they listed as paying the artists. So it is in there.
I just want to
Okay, I think I was looking in the verbiage and it was, okay. I just was a little unclear.
Wanted to know who the collaborative organizations are and who the stakeholders are. And I thought there were some missing links in the timeline, but I loved I looked at all the videos. I loved that the video showed the quality of the chorale itself.
I would have liked to have seen some kind of estimate of how many audience members they thought they might get. That seemed like another open-ended thing. The plan looks great, but you would like to know what they think, how many people they think this is going to affect.
I guess good discussion. Please finalize your scores. Before we move on to the next one, I do just want to give a reminder to the panelists, make sure you do not bring in any outside information that's not directly in the application. That can include the links there, but please don't do anything outside just the application that was provided. Thank you. Does anybody need more time on the last one? The next application is Indy Dance Council. Lauren has a conflict with this one, if she could be excused. A conflict of interest. I don't think she has a conflict with it. First, I apologize. The first reader is not available for this grant. So Pat, when you're ready, I'm going to start with you. Okay.
Okay. I thought that my opinion is that it was a real quality grant application, well organized, very professional people in charge. My only concern, it's not a concern, my only question is they were vague about who exactly would be participating as presenters and teachers, and they were also very vague about when they would have that information and when they would know who was involved. And they also added a link that I really wanted to look at that just didn't work well at all. So other than that, I think the grant itself is being run by professionals and good people. I just had there were just some questions that I didn't get answers to in reading through.
Does anybody have any comments about IDEA with this grant?
IDEA, hold on.
Yes, I have great feedback. Honestly, I noted that I thought this was an exemplary response in every criteria point. They clearly detail and define who their target audience is, how input has and will continue to be gathered, what strategies are being implemented to provide access, and how input will be gathered and used to measure impact and inform future programming. So it really hit all those key points for IDEA. I did have a note as well up on the artistic quality, or wait, no. artist support, and it was just a technical note, not related to the evaluation criteria, but the narrative, they noted that 5,600 will be paid to artists, but in the actual box, they only put 100. So just kind of making sure that you have someone outside review your applications for those small, tiny errors before submitting, because it's hard to see stuff like that when you've read it a million times.
Because everybody needs an editor. Take it from the English teacher. Everybody needs an editor. That's really good advice.
Luis?
As I read through this, I was a little confused as to who the actual audience was. Were we expecting only dancers to come benefit from this? Or were we hoping that the general audience would be people coming for the master classes were already dancers, and then people would come and view the performances were their family, friends, other community members? So that was my only concern that made this not the strongest application.
All right, if you would finalize your scores, please.
I wanted to see a marketing piece.
Sorry, go ahead, please. Rick, go ahead.
Their marketing piece was, we're going to develop one. And I would have thought that for a grant, you could have developed a one sheet. I mean, the website's pretty good, so there's a lot of information there, but I would have liked to have seen a marketing piece.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Rick.
That's okay. I'm slow.
That's perfect.
No, you're not.
All right, now finalize your scores if you haven't. Let me know if you need more time. Right, set. All right, we'll have Lauren come back in.
It's joining, Ryan.
Okay. I was gonna say you usually anticipate, so that's why. Yeah, there she is. Lauren, are you with us?
Me?
Lauren.
Oh,
I'm sorry, what?
I just want to make sure you're back. That's all.
Oh, okay.
Perfect. The next application is from Indy Folk Series Inc. Incorporated. Does anybody? I don't think anybody has a conflict. The first reader was Luis. Whenever you're ready, please.
I thought overall this was a strong and well thought out application as far as artistic quality went. It was clear purpose and goals. They have a storied history, the organization itself, and a strong partnership with the UUI. My only challenges with this application were that having better sound equipment increases the Indy Folk Series ability, but it also benefited the UUI. And when it came to their diversity question, the DEI question, they really lean on the UUI's diversity, but the actual Indy Folk Series doesn't show much diversity, even though like in the whole time they were talking about how many different speakers come to the UUI, not how many different speakers or how many different players of different diverse backgrounds are in the Indy Folk Series. So that was my only question here.
Thank you, Luis. Second reader is Rick. When you're ready, please.
I would have liked to have seen a little bit more, again, audience estimate. They've been doing this 22 years, so I would think they would have had a good count. Maybe I missed it, but I didn't see how many people they thought they would reach. I agree, though, that I thought it was a pretty strong application. Obviously, a great track record. And the only other thing that bothered me was that they don't only support Indiana artists. They have some mix of traveling artists. And I think, you know, that's fine for what they do. But in terms of focusing on Indiana artists, you know, they don't just focus on Indiana artists. But overall, I thought it was very strong.
Any new additional or opposing panels comments, Deanna?
So I think I'd have to disagree slightly. I thought this was more of a middle of the road application. For artistic quality, they spent most of the narrative talking about why they need to purchase new sound equipment, and it would have been strengthened by talking about the goals of the upcoming season, how past experience and input informed the season or project versus just we need new equipment and here's why. Related to community engagement for ideas specifically, number one, there wasn't an outlined underserved community that the project intends to serve, and then kind of echoing on what was talked about before, talking all about UUI's programming and not about their own. It could have been strengthened by talking about how they gather input and feedback from the local community that they're wanting to serve. let's see. In response number 3, still in community engagement idea, there were no strategies outlined where input from the community who was not attending that can be provided by individuals, and kind of addressing, you know, where those blind spots are that they're not aware of because they're only asking people who are coming to their events. And for project management, project staff is clear. It could have been strengthened by including their qualifications related to jobs and duty outlined, similar to what they had done with the past board president, because they didn't provide that detail for everyone. They just provided it for one. So going into detail for everyone you talk about would have helped strengthen that. I did also note for the project timeline, the organization might consider marketing and releasing dates in May when it's finalized versus waiting 1 month prior to the event to start doing all of that. And that's it.
Anyone else?
I agree with what Louise had to say about diversity, and but I will also guarantee all of you that the over 65 age group continues to grow. Thankfully.
All right. If you would finalize your score, please. Does anybody need more time? All right. The next application is from Midtown Indianapolis Incorporated. I don't think we have any conflicts here. Pat, you are the first reader when you're ready, please.
I'm ready. I felt that the mission statement was vague as to, and I'm quoting, the amenities the neighborhoods need to thrive. I would like to have had some explanation as to what exactly those amenities are. I thought it was really good that the event is free and that it's designed to link neighborhoods and bring some unity to the community. I would like to have seen the number of community people involved in the planning. And I also noted in management that there are only 2 people to manage this project, which seems to me to be a sizable project, but it's not a new project, so they've been doing it for quite some time.
Okay. Second reader is Laura.
I felt they've had pretty strong dynamic examples of expected performances. Artist support, I thought, was evident. And I was really delighted by the strong community synergy being reinforced with a positive community gathering.
Thank you, Laura. Any new additional or opposing panelist comments?
My only challenge with this is that they outlined the 2 people on the board that are dealing with it, and they are both not from the community that they're representing. And then they talked about people on the committee that were from the community, but didn't outline how or what underserved community they were part of. So it is important to have people that you're serving on at the table for the discussion. And I didn't see that represented here.
I just want to make sure that I'm understanding. You were saying that you didn't see where they included people from the community in the decision making. Is that what you were saying?
Yes, it's a Juneteenth celebration, which is for Black people, and the 2 people on the board are 2 white people, white presenting people, and they didn't go into their connections with the Black community. And then when they talked about the committee, there was no breakdown of who is actually part of the Black community. And that was just a little bit of a question for me as to making sure that the people who celebrate Juneteenth are the people who are having a say in how they're celebrating it.
Gotcha. Yeah, because they did outline on the planning committee all of that information, but wanting to know more about who's on that planning committee that represented. Got it. Okay.
Looking for more details, being more specific. Yes. Okay. All right. Please finalize your scores. Let me know if you need more time. We're good. The next application is from Pattern Incorporated. I believe Rick has a conflict here, so we'll put him in the waiting room. Deanna, we're going to start with you on this application, please.
Yes, so I felt that this was a strong application. They clearly defined their project goal and that it'll provide a meaningful and impactful experience for both the artist and the community. Let's see. Under artist support, they indicated 5 artists receiving $1,000, but it was unclear if the artists are going to be from Indiana, because under the who is eligible section in the narrative, they didn't specify that the call is only open to artists from a designated area geographically. So it's not, can't really say if it's going to serve Indiana artists financially. Under community engagement and idea, the applicant indicates that they aim to serve the artist community, but the underserved audience is unclear still, just because it was very vague, artist community in general. They did talk about how the artist has control over the work on display, but the application would have been strengthened by including how artist input was involved in the development of the program, what their studio needs are, so on and so forth. Again, I'm sure this was all done, but including that in the narrative would have strengthened the application. Ideas, strategies were very briefly outlined. However, elaborating more about how it relates to the project would strengthen the application. For example, when you say accessible programming, what does that mean? Because accessible is very different things to very different people. Equity and compensation. So who is being compensated and for what? Just again, going into more detail about what that is. Marketing materials reflected those they wish to serve. As far as artist community goes, participation numbers seemed reasonable. Project management, staffing, timeline, and budget were thorough and seemed reasonable.
Thank you, Dan. Any new additional or opposing comments, please?
I agree that they could have included a firm statement towards DEI. I did want to point out that I liked that they put in that they're opening only to emerging and mid-career artists, 21 years or older, that have startups less than 5 years old. I think that was a good way to speak to who they're talking about, but then they didn't include diversity in that.
I'm going to clarify overall, just because this happens often, people use different terms. The direct term, and you're fine to do what you said, but the direct term is IDEA, but a lot of people say DEI and other forms will really just mean the inclusivity, diversity, equity, and accessibility. That's what they're referring to.
Right.
All right, please finalize your scores. Does anybody need more time? All right, we have Rick back. All right, the next application is for resounding joy. I don't think we have any conflicts with this one. Laura, you're the first reader. When you're ready, please.
Oh. I'm telling you, I feel like the blind reader. I can't see very well. The concept, the partnership, and the target audience are well considered. Mental health is a many-headed dragon to tame. I believe continuing to explore and experiment with teaching people to use music as an outlet for expression is worthy. So I felt that they did they're putting forth a worthy effort. This program is definitely targeting an at-risk and underrepresented and underserved portion of the population. The fact that 10 families will be participating and potentially benefiting feels kind of like a small number, but helping 10 families could be huge. The whole family approach is strong. I hope 4 sessions is enough time to support long-lasting change. It would be interesting to have a pre and post session surveys with a 6-month follow-up to see how they are using the tools that they learned. For project management, the project budget seems realistic and manageable. I'm confident they will be able to raise the extra funds they need to fulfill their complete program.
Thank you, Laura. The second reader is Lauren.
Sorry, thank you. I agree with everything Laura said. I just had to say just a little grant writing thing that I thought they did a good job of was including their actual survey questions. I thought that was very effective. And I think, yeah, I think that was the only other like differing thing I would have to say.
Thank you, Lauren. Any new additional or opposing panelist comments? Pat?
In the beginning, I had some real questions about whether this was really an art project. And I read it twice, and I still am not sure that this is an art project. I also have a problem when people give me facts and statistics without documentation, because I check the documentation. So if you tell me that somebody is 10% this or 40% that, then I want to know where that information comes from. And that information is missing from this grant. I think my opinion is that the documentation, a lot of it is just opinion, and that this proposal is much more about therapy than it is about art.
I had a related concern. I didn't think it through quite as well as Pat did, but I wanted to know more about what the actual musical therapy process was. Why did they pick ukulele? Are there other instruments? What happens when they go into a home? I didn't, either I missed it or I just didn't feel like that was as well explained as it could have been.
It wasn't there.
Well, there you go.
Deanna?
So just some clarification, looking at the beginning of the application, some of the narratives indicated that this was a new project, 0 years that it's occurred, but then other parts talked about that it has happened and they've used past feedback from the programs to inform it. So just kind of reviewing to make sure you're talking about your project consistently, if it's going to be new first time or if it's been done previously and you're using information from it.
Yeah, I just don't think it's an art project, and that's my opinion.
My understanding, to Deanna's point, was that they had done a similar project but with a different instrument. But maybe I missed something also. But and yeah, I guess it's a matter of opinion whether art therapy. I feel like it's pertinent to art as a field, art therapy, but I could see the challenge to that. But I would have to agree with Laura's assessment overall.
I still want to see documentation when you give me numbers.
I think that that's a hard question there, though, because the documentation is people's survey responses. So they took surveys to their previous classes, and that was what their survey people said. It is therapy, so they can only give you so much information because it is.
If I had searched for information about mental health in Hamilton County and I wanted documentation for it, trust me, I could have found it.
Well, in this particular instance, the numbers that they use, like for example, ukulele for parents, 89% reported the class helped them to feel more connected to other families. It's a subjective thing that they filled out in a survey after their class. So
yeah, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about such a certain percentage of people who live in Hamilton County are without any kind of mental health care. Where does that come from? That's the documentation I'm talking about. As I said, I don't think this is an art project, and that's just my opinion.
I mean, it's art classes, so I don't know. I think I guess that's a subjective thing, but it seems pretty dry that it's an art class.
All right, I think we've had a good discussion. Make sure you give yourself time to think. Just keep in mind, grants qualify, so that's why we have different panels to get a good discussion. So that's much appreciated. Please finalize your scores. Let me give just a minute here to make sure. All right, does anybody need more time? All right, our next application is from Sahana USA DBDA Sustained Festival. I don't think we have any conflicts. Deanna, you're the first reader, please.
Yes, so under artistic quality, the project goals are clearly stated. Artists listed seem reasonable. However, additional information about how the artists were identified and chosen and what their experience level is, or samples of the musician's work would help strengthen that section of the application. A note that's not related to the evaluation criteria, I was confused on the timing. So parts of the application state that it's taking place in May of 2024. Other parts of the narrative reference that it's a new event and taking place in 2023. So yeah, just kind of being clear when you're writing that narrative that this is, in terms of the grant timing, is for May of 2024. So having the narrative reflect that information and not the 2023 program would be good. For artist support, there's clearly benefit and support to Indiana artists based on the 2023 narrative information, community engagement and idea. I wrote that it's unclear what community the project aims to serve, how community input was gathered or involved in the decision-making for the creation of the event, what strategies will be used to implement and increase access, address barriers, or provide accommodations. They stated that they intend to use surveys to inform future decision-making, but does not state how they intend to measure the program's impact or success. Marketing materials clearly reflected the goal of sustainability, but again, trying to know, it's hard to say if they reflect those they wish to serve because it wasn't clear who they wanted to serve. Project management, the project committee roles were clearly defined, who will be fulfilling these roles and what their relevant experience would have been. What their relevant experience is would have helped strengthen that part of the application. The project timeline is thorough, but again, confusing date-wise. The budget is comprehensive and reasonable. There's also a few mathematical errors in the budget where the income line items don't equal up the total that's listed at the bottom. So therefore the income and expenses don't match. So just making sure again that you have an outside person reread everything before you submit.
Thank you, Deanna. Second reader is Luis.
I have the same challenges with the budget and the IDEA portion of this. It was a very interesting read. There were so many technical issues with the timeline and the budget and what they were trying to do, and the fact that half of the artists were not from Indiana, that all those things kind of made this a less strong submission, in my opinion. The overall arching thing here is that it just needed a second read through and needed editing and needed a lot of just combing through to kind of make it more strong.
Thank you, Lisa. Any new additional or opposing panelist comments?
I did like the fact that it was going to take place in an area that wasn't Indianapolis. They have moved, out of Marion County and out of the city. I thought that was pretty cool.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Pat.
No, I'm done.
I would have liked more information on how they were reaching out to underserved communities. And because of the location, I'm also unclear as to the ADA accessibility. I also would like to understand better if this is an organized group of volunteers and how many persons are dedicated to this project. I would like to see a plan on how they're going to capture data from the attendees of this year's event to better understand their community outreach. And the expense sheet totals, like everyone has said, don't match up. And I may not be understanding them completely, but the number of vendors, camping site costs, wristbands, room rentals, that are all those numbers don't really add up.
My biggest concern on this one was I felt that it was off target from their mission. Their stated mission is that they're raising funds for children, and yet you're doing an Americana Bluegrass Festival with an estimated 300 adults and 20 children. And then there was another thing in there where they said they were trying to raise money for the kids, but I don't see any reflection of that in the budget. And then adding on top of that, and I'm a music guy, so I love music. I love all the music stuff, but I know that's not here or there. But what happens if it rains? What do you do with an outdoor music festival? What's your backup plan? So I had some serious concerns with this one.
You guys would finalize your scores, please. Does anybody need more time with this one? All right. We are going to take a 5-minute break and we'll come right back.
Oh my God, that's such good timing because I completely lost my evaluation sheet. Well, there it is. Found it. All good.
I knew you would.
It's a scream. We'll be back about 2:56. So we'll get started again. Thank you.
This seems like that's going a lot faster than I thought. We're not going to be here till 5, are we?
Laura, are you ready?
Yes, sorry.
No, you're fine. Lauren, are you ready?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. All right, we're ready to go again. The next application is from the Scottish Foundation of Indianapolis. I don't think we have any conflicts. The first reader is Lauren.
I wish that this application had included more about, so for the artistic section, the artists that they're engaging, musicians, vendors, actors, whatever, are what would make this an art project. And I wish there had been more. They named them, but I would have liked to have known a little bit more about who they are, what they do, which are national, which are local. And in terms of the IDEA section, I felt like a lot of the questions weren't really answered. And my advice would be, that the artists can be part of the answer. So if you don't necessarily know a lot about your attendees, you can talk about the artists that you are paying. But also from the pictures of the festival, it seems like the 65 and better population are strongly represented, and that's a group that this applicant could talk about. For the project management section, I just had that this festival is pretty established and seems sound, and those were my comments.
Thank you, Lauren. The second reader is Pat. When you're ready, please.
I don't remember anything in, I guess I just didn't read it as carefully as I thought about age demographic with this.
It wasn't in the verbiage. It was just from the pictures. So.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Because I didn't see that at all. There wasn't any suggestion for measuring the impact of the project or its implementation. That I thought was missing from the grant, but they certainly documented well, and they have many years of experience in putting on this festival. So I would like to know how they measure the impact. That's part of the deal, right? That's it.
Thank you, Pat. Any new additional or opposing panelist comments? Deanna?
So I thought this was a weaker application and had quite a few areas of opportunity to strengthen. I mean, as everyone said, it's been done before, so I'm sure there's a lot of things they're doing, but just talking about it, one of the first things I would recommend is making sure you number the responses so that you're fully addressing each of the evaluation criteria points. Because as mentioned in the community engagement and idea section, there really wasn't much, making it difficult to score. For the project management section, I noted giving a detailed timeline. For example, when things happen, October 2020, the committee meets, December 22, venue secured. So providing a general outline when everything occurs for that would have been helpful. And then just kind of reiterating what everyone else already mentioned.
I had some questions in the same vein leading to sustainability. I know this isn't directly a question asked in the but when you think about project management, a lot of things have changed pre-COVID, and they need to allow themselves more time to plan in case vendors that they previously used are not available, or they don't have this they expect that they had pre-COVID, and that wasn't really allowed for in their responses to their timelines and their budget.
I really wasn't certain about underserved communities, where that is really mentioned, how they're embracing that. Did anybody catch any of that I missed?
No, yeah, it wasn't really clear.
Go ahead.
I think
Sorry.
she's agreeing. Rick, go ahead.
I was going to say that not only is that missing, but I didn't even get from this whether they were really working with, if you will, Scottish support organizations or anything like that. They just kind of say we're experienced at this and we've done it for a long time, but I didn't find a community of Scott history or anything like that that was directly cited, and that would have made me feel better. Also, having done it 10 years, I would have liked to have seen something more than a website and a Facebook page. And I'm a marketing guy in me, but everybody should have a one sheet, even in 2023.
You'd finalize your scores, please. Let me know if you need more time. Lower typing, just make sure. Okay, good. The next application is from the Shelby Community Band. I don't think we have any conflicts. The first reader is Louise. When you're ready, please. You're on mute.
You're on mute.
I sure am. Sorry, I was just finishing up my notes on my last one. My overall feeling for this was that it was kind of a mid-grade application. It fell short for me in consideration for IDEA. They're commissioning new wind music, but they're only commissioning it from one artist. They did mention asking other people for input, but they didn't outline exactly who those people were or how their input would be considered. It does benefit an Indiana artist, so that was a positive for them. I did like that they did mention that they would be traveling to the public with this music, so it would benefit not only people in Indiana, but further out.
Thank you, Louise. The second reader is Rick.
I felt this was stronger maybe than she did. The IDEA thing is a little bit trickier when you get into the rural counties, so I don't know for sure how much that should be, held against them. I also didn't see a whole lot of evidence of that either, but nonetheless, I think underserved communities are rural. So I feel that is that's more of a plus than a minus in my thinking. They've got a long track record of doing things. People go free. I think, having said that, they've got a long track record of doing this, but no real audience measurement, at least as far as I could see. So I would like to have seen that. Let me see what else I had said here. I was looking for more names involved besides the project manager. They talk about a bunch of volunteers, but that may not be true. And that's okay if you don't have it, because I've kind of been a one-man band sometimes myself. So, but the other thing that I was missing, and I saw this on a number of applications that I didn't mention it on. There's no in-kind support noted, and there is in-kind support for something like this. Everybody gets in-kind support, and most of us are not very good at documenting it. But I do think every time you can get documentation of that, it supports an application like this more strongly.
Thank you, Rick. Any new additional or opposing panelists' comments?
I didn't find any way that they would, or how they would measure the project's impact. And I made a note to myself that I thought the videos needed to actually include the band. Did anybody notice that? Did you watch the videos? I was waiting for a band, and that should be there. That's all.
The one point of interest for me, though, is that for an artist being paid, this is actually a composer. Right. And I was really kind of charmed by that, because I was like, wow, I don't see that very often.
Right. Yeah.
And I will say, I don't know if you guys looked at some of the videos of Peter Felice, but his compositions are quite remarkable. So yes. I think they may have already, this may feel predetermined, but I think they made a great choice, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Deanna?
So I wanted to kind of circle back to something Rick had brought up before around the community engagement idea, and that it is serving the rural community, which is an underserved community as defined by the IAC, which led me into reading about it, it seemed like they relied very heavily for input from their community via social media. And thinking about the rural setting, there's a lot of people that don't have internet access, have limited internet access, things of that nature. So including the ways in which you kind of gather your input and feedback from your community outside of just online. I know it's hard to go. I mean, everything's so spread apart in a rural setting, but having that information about other ways you tackle that barrier for your community and your audience to your shows. And then, as I believe Patricia said, the idea, strategies, measuring the impact for the program. They did outline it related to the general success of their organization's programming, but specifically outlining the impact or success of creating these new compositions and what drove the need for it. Like, was it informed by your community that you needed these new things? Just providing that additional information would help strengthen the application.
Does the application seem aware that it's serving a rural community? You gotta speak out loud, just if you wanted to.
Yeah, I thought it did. I thought it was clear that that it was serving a rural population.
If you guys would finalize your scores, please.
Could I just, sorry, so
No,
quickly.
back up. So, yeah, go ahead, Lauren.
I'm so sorry, so quickly. I don't want to speculate. I just have a sense that this organization probably has pretty small capacity. And if they're listening to these comments, I want them to know part of the people you serve are the people in the ensemble itself. Like they are part of the impact that you provide, and you can know a lot about them. So if it's possible to talk about those people, because I know for organizations that are small, it's hard to gather data, but you can gather data on your members a lot easier. So, and don't be afraid to do that. At least I think that that's a valid approach.
Good point.
Thanks, Lauren. All right, if you haven't done so, finalize your score. That's a good comment. We've got room for them all. All right, the next application is from the South Bank Theater Company. I don't think we have any conflicts of interest. Pat, you are the first reader, please.
Yes, I really liked that one of their goals with this play that they proposed to do, which was a movie many years ago, a really excellent movie many years ago. Their goal is to put history into a modern context. And the proposal was to take this play and indicate its application, and the application, you know, you're talking to a literature major here, the application of literature to not just past history, but current history. And I liked that. I liked that goal. The video that they provided was very good. I like that they have post-show discussions of the play after it's over, so people can stay and input, and actors can input. However, they did not have anything about accessibility. And when it comes to theater and live performance, I was wondering, you know, if they ever had a signer for the hearing impaired for one performance or a performance a week or something like that. I thought that would be a good thing to have in terms of accessibility.
Thank you, Pat. The second reader is Laura.
My comments are really brief because I thought it was well articulated. It was spot on as far as the artistic support was just spot on. The idea section I thought was smart and strong project. I felt it was very inclusive. I felt confident that this production is well considered and capably directed.
Thank you, Laura. Any new additional or opposing panelist comments?
This is a nitpick, but because you could kind of logically think it was true, but they didn't say their actors were from Indiana. Because it's live theater, you kind of assume that, but it would have just been nice to have them state that.
Yeah.
Deanna?
Yeah, so I was interesting to hear Pat's kind of takeaway as someone who knew about the old play, because someone who doesn't attend plays, I found it
A movie.
unclear.
It was a movie.
Movie. Okay, my apologies. Someone who's unclear.
You'd like it. You don't attend plays, but maybe you watch movies. You'd like it. It's really good.
Okay, so, but with that being said, as someone who didn't understand what it was about, I had a hard time figuring out what the goal of the project was. Like, it was clear that the intention was to raise difficult questions, but the ultimate goal of the project and what they were trying to do seemed unclear to someone who didn't have that background information. And so this is really, it's really applicable to all applicants, really, is when you're writing your grant, kind of writing it as if someone doesn't know the specifics of your genre, right? Because we're all specialized in different areas. So kind of keeping that in mind, having outside readers who know nothing about what you do read it to be like, this could have been elaborated, made more clear, things of that nature, because I had a hard time understanding what the actual ultimate goal was of the production that was being put on. But I would agree with everything else that was said. And then in the idea section, they stated that they actively and intentionally seek out artists that represent those they want to serve. And I wrote, the narrative could have been strengthened by indicating how they go about doing so, what kind of marketing media strategies are in place to let attendees know that they're welcome and address any barriers that might exist. Because it's one thing to be serving someone through the play and the cast, but how are you reaching and engaging the audience that you're wanting to bring in to help with your overall mission? Could have been strengthened.
All right, please finalize your scores. Let me know if you need more time. See some concentration faces. I want to make sure. All right, the next application is from Forgiving Sea Project Ltd. Do we have any panels that need on hold for this review? All right, the first reader is Rick.
Oh, where's my paperwork on this one? It was here a while ago. This one was very interesting to me. I found a lot of strength and some weakness in it both. I like what they're trying to do very much, because who's more underserved than, people who've been imprisoned. However, it was kind of unclear as to what kind of outcomes are achieved and what happens at this event, which it sounds like it's part of a festival. It's a booth for a festival. That was a little bit hard for me to get. I like that the fact that they're working with PACE to get appropriate people to serve, and I just didn't see any real examples of outcomes, or well, there was one I think that was cited, but it's just hard to tell how this worked, and that was just, I found it to be just a little bit hard to understand.
Thank you, Rick. Second reader is Deanna.
Yeah, so I would have to agree with Rick. I thoroughly enjoyed reading the application and found strengths and weaknesses kind of in different parts. One of the areas for improvement was related to community engagement and idea, and I think it's more just being able to talk about what you may already be doing. But for response number 3, there were no clear idea strategies, and maybe including an example of how you address barriers for participation, like do you partner with or organize your marketing or talk to parole officers who can relay information to individuals that might not be involved with PACE, which is the partner organization that they work with to put this on. So just kind of how do you reach people that are outside of PACE? And there were no real tools or methods for measuring the program's success, such as informal feedback surveys, debriefs with therapists, follow-up with participants, etc. So it's all stuff I'm sure they're probably doing, but just again, being able to talk about that related to the grant application. project management, and this kind of hits on what I believe Rick said earlier. It's reasonable and could be strengthened by showing the additional support of your partners with in-kind, like even if they're just donating water for attendees, or the venue space rental being discounted, things like that are all ways you can show in-kind support for your program and show that you have community partners invested in it.
Thank you, Deanna. Any new additional or opposing panelist comments?
I'm going to jump back in and say one thing I forgot to mention is I wanted to see a video. This is, some sort of live music thing with painting and stuff. And I saw lots of photos, but I didn't see a video. Was there a video? Did I miss it?
No. I made the same comment about the artistic example was just a series of photos. I said I would have liked to have seen fewer photos with more explanation.
I want to say, because I don't have it noted in here, but I'm fairly certain when they included the link to their website that there was a video on their website.
I went to the website. I don't remember seeing a video. Maybe I missed it.
Just something that might be more clear in the application, right? So not necessarily something that was missing, but it would make it clear when it's something interactive or moving, if you can see
Right,
what that is to
right.
clarify. All right. Anyone else? All right, if you would finalize your scores, please. Let me know if you need more time. The next application is from the International Center. I don't think we have anybody that needs to be on hold for this one. Laura, you're the first reader, please.
This is a great exercise and opportunity for young artists because many communities are investing in public art, and it's important to teach artists how to apply to this process and solve design challenges that a public space requires. So, whoopsie. So I thought that part was strong. I would like to see all of the artists who enter be compensated for design materials they need for this presentation. The kind of professional presentation that this group is asking of student artists is costly if done correctly. And I feel like they're very much overlooking what they're asking these kids to do and not really understanding the reality of how these kids have to, what efforts they have to go through to produce a presentation of this level. I have struggles with this project is one of those where you can spin the narrative to apply as needed. And I feel the leaders are smart and discerning selection process, but I would like to understand how the underserved community is benefiting. The limited pool of entries, which is just coming from one art school source, and especially the location of the final piece, which is going to be at the airport, did not seem accessible to serve an underserved population in any aspect, unless they were had an element where they were taking underserved people to do a tour of the entire airport and all the different installations they have for art down there. I thought that would have been a stronger move. The community involvement is a smart, limited group. However, through the community audience is vast. It's not going to be viewed by a socioeconomic equals. And the marketing and measurement of impact, I felt that those were not very tangible either. For the management of the project, I thought would be very professionally done. I thought, end of day, they're going to turn out a very good product, but I just had, some loopholes in my thinking of how they're approaching. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Laura. The second reader is Lauren. When you're ready, please.
Thank you. I would agree with everything Laura said. And I'm so glad that you have the knowledge about, I'm not a visual artist. So I'm glad you provided that extra piece. I think my biggest questions were, could the artists maybe next time come from the international, like the immigrant community, or, you know, the community that you serve? And maybe Laura, you would have more to know about this. I didn't love that it's like a $100,000 project, but only 5,000 of that is going to the artist. And I think that's basically it.
I would agree that I think that's really not terribly equitable for the designer of that project. But again, I really feel like there should be a lot more compensation to all the different artists that are going to be touching this project. And I would like it to be put to a broader audience, because I do think this is such a great learning opportunity for people to understand how to submit to these projects. So.
Any new additional or opposing panelist comments?
I'm not a visual artist person, or certainly not for 3D stuff, so I don't know anything about it. But my goodness, $70,000 for site prep, installation, materials, outsourcing, rentals, and labor. Is that realistic?
Yeah.
Okay.
It might even be higher, to be quite honest.
Really?
Yeah. Public art installations are a lot.
Thank you.
I want to make sure that I'm not missing something that other panelists might have seen. So when it came to community engagement and idea, I didn't really see how they addressed points 1 through 4, even 5 at all. And I just want to make sure that I'm not missing something based on what has already been said.
No, there was nothing there.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So, again, I'm numbering your responses to ensure that you're addressing the questions being asked. And then also for the project management, I mean, they listed who their staff is, but what are their roles and responsibilities related to the project would have helped strengthen the application. That's all.
All right, if you'd finalize your scores, please. Let me know if you need more time. I think we're good. The next application is from Wayne Township Education Foundation. I don't think we have any conflicts. The first reader is Deanna. When you're ready, please.
All righty. So thought this was a strong application. The goals were clear, utilized past audience feedback about ticket costs to inform their decision-making related to this year, and that it would clearly have a meaningful and impactful artistic experience. Under artist support, it's clearly going to benefit an Indiana artist, community engagement and idea. There is a underserved community who was defined. It was developed in partnership with the community they serve. They outlined strategies to increase access. There are appropriate tools for measuring the program's impact and success. Under project management, lead staff is appropriate and detailed. It could have been strengthened by further including a brief outline of the volunteer roles and responsibilities related to the production, since it was outlined as being such a big and important part, relying on their volunteers. Timeline and budget seemed detailed and reasonable.
Thank you, Deanna. The second reader is Louise. You ready?
I agree with your display of what they said. I think the only thing that came up for me missing from the picture was how they were going to gather audience data. I would love to see them say that they were going to do a survey at the end of everyone who attended the show and a count of how many people who took advantage of the free tickets, so that they could know for the next year what the impact was in real people. But I really love that this was a twofer, that they're going to be able to pay their the person who's putting it on, and then that they're going to be able to give free tickets because they had taken that off their plate.
Thank you, Louise. Any new additional or opposing panelist comments?
Thought it was a really strong application, and I have experience myself working with kids to know how much exposure to the arts in any form, I mean, in theater, and the kids I've taken to see plays who've never seen a play before. I mean, it can be life altering and life changing. And I loved the fact that this grant involves more students than it could do previously.
I totally agree with Pat, and I think this is one of the strongest applications that I read. The only thing, I'm just, and maybe I missed it, but this is like my personal thing. They use the statistics of the township, but those are maybe not the statistics of your audience. And so, and maybe I missed something, but that's more of a grant writing like thing than really anything to do with the project, which I think is excellent.
I like that they conduct a title search instead of just deciding what they were going to do beforehand. That gives the process more, I don't know, that could create more interest and come to a consensus on the title.
I think one last note that I had that I forgot earlier was that they are running right up against the timeline for the actual grant. So if anything happens in production or they have to push their expected start date back, they're going to have to ask for an extension. And that's my only concern with this.
All right, please finalize your scores. Anyone need more time? All right, panelists, if you'll hold on for just a second. This concludes the APS Grants Panel 2 for Region 7. Applicants will be notified of the status of their grant following the June Commission meeting. If you have any questions, please contact Ryan Shelton, your Regional Arts Partner. Thank you very much.